It's been 4 years and I thought I was past it, but after this Memorial Day, I'm not and I need advice. Part 2. After a few weeks, she began blowing up my phone. Not once did Luna try to contact me. Marisol was astounded to find that I had sold my company. Even more so when she found out I was having an open house. She screamed at the viewers to get out of her home and pleaded with me to seek aid. That I was destroying our relationship. That I had no authority to sell our house. I informed her that the house where we raised our kid was full of falsehoods. It's a home where I raised another man's kid, and when I sell it, I'll give her half of the proceeds, and I told her to leave before I contacted the police. It was a ruse. All she had to do was play the victim, and I would have been arrested. But she did. Instead, she cooperated. Soon after, my cousin came over to speak to me, and I knocked him unconscious, carried him outside, and shut the door. Marisol wanted to reconcile, but I rejected mediation. I wanted a divorce, so my attorney filed for a fast-track divorce, and we were in the Nassau County courtroom in 3 months. I scarcely communicated to anybody during that period, and I had heard horrible tales about the court system, particularly during divorce processes, but I didn't experience that. My judge was a female who was quite fair. Everything was handled by my attorney. First, Marisol's lawyer attempted to bring up my history as a gang member, as if my background was a justification for me to be a bad husband and parent, but my attorney immediately shut that down, and the court admonished her attorney for attempting to humiliate someone who had turned their life around. My attorney submitted all of the facts and proposed a lump sum alimony payment using the proceeds from the property and company sales. Marisol started imploring me to rethink, but I ignored her, and when she saw I wasn't going anywhere, she consented. The true shock came when it came to child support. My lawyer revealed all of Luna's text messages from her chat with Marisol. Not only does Luna know that I'm not her father, but she can't wait to see her true father, claiming that she no longer needs to live a lie. Marisol was really taken aback by this. Then my attorney filed a request to have my name removed from Luna's birth certificate, as well as to have my last name removed and to be exempt from paying child support since all parties agreed that my cousin was her father. Marisol was taken aback by this. She shouted at me, begging me not to do this to Luna, reminding me that I am her father since I raised her, and as terrible as it may seem right now, if Luna didn't behave this way towards me, I would have agreed if she hadn't spoken such things. I had times when I wanted to reach out and try to make it work, but then I remembered Luna's ongoing text messages to her friends, her biological father and mother, and I refocused on my commitment. I'm still not sure what hurts the most. Being lied to by a lady you thought was the love of your life, or having a kid who, despite your best efforts to improve their lives and offer them the world, simply tosses you away like garbage. The judge remained silent for a long time as he looked through the text messages, page after page after page. She eventually consented. Luna's finances were not my responsibility, and my name could be deleted. My attorney also filed a petition asking the courts to pursue my cousin for child support, as well as a move to sue my cousin in civil court for all of the money I spent raising Luna. Private schools, dancing programs, Girl Scouts, and horseback riding lessons. My attorney argued to the court that my cousin committed fraud by deliberately allowing me to raise his kid without providing any financial support or aid. The court agreed that it was a Hail Mary. When the judge gave her judgment, I didn't bother looking at Marisol. As I went out of the courtroom, I didn't care to listen to her. I didn't mind when I heard her sob. Her told me she only cheated once and has been loyal ever since. I just didn't care anymore. My ex contacted me a few weeks later, startled that I had stopped paying for Luna's expensive schools and activities, and I advised her to call her baby daddy before hanging up. Luna contacted me for the first time since the process began, weeping that she had to go to public school, that they were going back to the old area, how terrifying it was, and how she wanted us to be a family again. I encouraged her to go to her biological father, the guy she actually desired, and ask him. I raged at her, telling her that not only had she known for years, but I had seen all of the text messages and back and forth, and she was grateful that a hoodlum like me wasn't her father, even though I haven't been a hoodlum since the day I found out I was going to be a father. After that, I hung upon her. I considered stopping it several times. I considered killing my cousin, but I made him pay. He was forced to pay me $500,000. $500,000 that was entirely mine and did not belong to my ex since she consented to the lump amount. I didn't mind that the funds came from a church. I was in pain. I quickly left New York and headed to Idaho, as far away from New York as possible. I just chose a random state and city and left. I opened a new business and bought a home, but I struggled with trust for 2 years. I visited a therapist for 2 years, worked on anger control, and went to rage rooms. It was challenging, until I found myself returning to church, where I met my fiancée, strangely. Jocelyn is fantastic. She had just turned 30 at the time, and we instantly clicked. Everything that had occurred to me, I told her. I told her I was going to have trust difficulties, and she understood. A year later, she informed me that I was going to be a father and insisted on a DNA test for my peace of mind. I had forgotten what it was like to be joyful, so when my kid was born, I was ecstatic. For the first time in years, I phoned my grandma. She sobbed, and when I told her about my kid, she insisted on my coming to New York to see her great-grandchild. Guilt tripped me by stating she was 90 and wanted to see me one last time, and I consented. We arrived in New York via plane, hired a vehicle, and went to Bushwick. The one thing I don't like about the neighborhood, you just need to see one person from your past to let the whole neighborhood know you've returned. My grandma saw my kid, met my fiancé, and made an offhand remark in Spanish about her being white, and I simply nodded. I had planned to spend the week doing touristy things. It was Jocelyn's first trip to New York, and I wanted to make it memorable. Everything never goes as planned. My ex first called my name from the basement. When I peeked out the window, I was startled at how fat she had become. My grandma encouraged me to converse to her in Spanish, and Jocelyn agreed. I proceeded down the steps, remained uncomfortably quiet for a while, and the rage returned like a torrent. Marisol complimented me on my appearance while dismissing her own. She told me she missed me, and that she hadn't seen another guy since the divorce, and I disregarded her. She even had the guts to inform me that I'm a grandpa, which elicited a glare from me. Luna apparently went with a nice man and was not pregnant at the age of 18. Her baby daddy joined the Marines to support them, and her father had nothing to do with her, just paying child support and ignoring her. He's no longer a pastor and instead works 2 blocks away at the Banco Popular. Then she told me Luna named the baby after me, and I couldn't stop staring at her. Marisol requested that I wait since Luna was on her way over, and I just walked away. I went to my grandmother's place without telling Jocelyn anything. She just knew, and we left. When I informed her what had occurred, in the elevator, she smiled and assured me that everything would be okay. Marisol's expression as we exited the building. She was staring at my fiancé as if she were the other lady, and Jocelyn presented my kid to her without skipping a beat. "I would want you to meet his biological kid," she whispered, a knife twist, yet she recognized my agony. Marisol continuously attempting to prevent me from leaving. Luna felt guilty about what she did, and Jocelyn wanted me to make apologies, but I was furious. I got inside the automobile. I ignored Marisol's pleadings and Jocelyn's advice to give an olive branch, so I handed her my phone information so Luna could contact me and departed. I don't know what happened when I spotted my cousin near the Cachofrito stall at the red light. I jumped out of the vehicle, raced up to him, and beat the out of him. Jocelyn was screaming at me to stop, and I could sense his anxiety as we met eyes. I spat on him and walked away. I've returned home. Working, being a father, and being a decent fiancé to a lovely lady. However, since returning, when I'm alone with my thoughts, his fury has returned. Luna did email me a photo of herself happy with her baby and apologized for what she had done. But I'm not sure whether she's regretful because she missed me or because the guy she wanted to be her father wasn't who she thought he was. I'm completely perplexed, and I'm afraid to approach her. I want to move on from this. I'm ready to go on. My family was important to me, and my kid was my whole world. Even after all these years, it still hurts and irritates me, but I know I need to move on, but it's difficult. I want to contact Luna, but I'm terrified. People have told me to allow her back in, but all I could think of were the text messages and lies. The continual deception. I need assistance, and my typical tactics aren't working. Thank you for taking the time to read this. I needed to vent. I don't care if you believe this is a hoax, as I already said. I truly don't give a rat's, but your assistance is much appreciated. Update. I'm waiting for the moderators to approve this since it's been a long, and it was Father's Day yesterday. Luna called me numerous times, and I kept looking at the phone. I wanted to respond, but I didn't, and all that remained in my thoughts were those messages. What she said to her mother, her biological father, and her pals. So I ignored it. Eventually, I listened to her voice message, and she seemed so joyful. She quickly apologized for her behavior, but it didn't seem serious to me, just passive. Perhaps I'm overthinking things. She discussed her kid and her finances, and she requested me to contact her. I felt enraged by simple demands. My grandmother and fiancé both say I should give her a chance, but when I asked my grandmother whether Luna or Marisol ever inquired about me during the 4 years I was gone, she replied Marisol did, but not Luna. So in my warped head, I believe Luna wants me in her life so that her kid will be cared for. Perhaps she wants to milk me, which is what made me so upset. Marisol kept contacting me, and I'm already considering changing my phone number. So I spent most of my Father's Day in the gym, hitting the heavy bag, and I have an appointment with an anger management group today. Perhaps they can provide me with an unbiased perspective. If the moderators ever decide to post it, I'd want to hear your thoughts as well. Meanwhile, I'm simply finding it out on my own. Stay tuned for the next part.